Gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. I know you can hear me clearly and you have no idea how much that warms my soul this evening. You have no idea. We're going to be going over the Harry S. Truman that got bombed. Now, most of you guys may or may not have seen the actual video that I put together earlier. I know the audio is a bit garbage, but that's why we're doing this again, so that you guys can all come in and enjoy the freaking show. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and dive on into it. I know we're waiting on a couple folks to get in here, and as soon as they do, well, I forgot YouTube kind of sucks right now because I'm getting slammed by everybody else. But yeah, it'd be all right. All right, so let's go over this. What's up there, Op4? How you doing, man? First one in tonight. It's like nobody's figured it out. So the Harry S. Truman. Harry S. Truman ends up getting freaking slammed today. I want to make sure that I get this stream up over in the Discord for everybody else to make sure that they get in there as well, so that we got everybody up in here. Give me 1 sec. I want to make sure that that gets shared up over there. Content. Oh, there he is. Just Talking's finally getting in. Pretty freaking happy. All right, now we got people slowly poured in here. Let me go make sure I drop it over in the Discord so everybody knows. All right, so live session just ended up getting dropped in the Discord, so at least they'll get notified in there, and they'll be able to come out this way. So hopefully they come in here in just a sec, and everybody ends up jumping in. I actually really look forward to this stream because we're going to be going over the Truman. There's a lot of people out there that are saying that the Truman and the Houthis went over it, and God forbid they ended up sinking the freaking Truman, or I'm sorry, they ended up shooting a bunch of ballistic missiles at the Truman. I went over to the DIA's website, pulled up the different ballistic missiles, anti-ship ballistic missile capabilities that the Houthis have, and we're going to be able to go over all that crap today. If you ended up asking what happened to the stream earlier, I want to make sure that you guys can hear me nice, crisp, and clean. So here we go. CNN ended up coming out and claiming that the Harry S. Truman ended up getting schwacked by an anti-ship ballistic missile. Lord Almighty, I'm telling you right now, nothing could be further from the truth. Yeah, I know it is. You know why? Because I have been pulling my hair out all day getting this audio going. So I'm really happy you guys are happy with it. Now, CNN says that according to an unofficial source, that they ended up having a freaking F-18 fall off of it because it had to make a hard turn in order to avoid Houthi fire. Now, what we're going to be doing, is we're going to be going over the Harry Truman. We're going to be going over the capabilities of this sucker, and we're going to be talking specifically about what the U.S. Navy said about it, because this is what the U.S. Navy ended up saying. They said, USS Harry Truman lost an FA-18 Super Hornet assigned to the Striker and a tow tractor as the aircraft carrier operated in the Red Sea. So that'll tell you right there that this sucker was getting towed. All right, so they were going to move it, and what I got told was that this FA-18 was up on one of the lift ramps that was going up. The ship did turn, and that basically it was a little turning configuration as it happened, and it was about like a 3% tilt or something. And I think there was actually an equipment issue that ended up going into it. Now, what was being shared on social media today was actually this, with people trying to claim that this was the reason it ended up happening. Now, if we look at the date that the federal government ended up giving out, or the U.S. Navy, they said the 28th. This right here ends up telling you, okay, and this is very important because I want you to look at how big of a turn this ends up being. Now, if a ship was to do that big of a turn, these suckers can't turn on a dime. They weigh like over 100 freaking tons. I mean, these are 100-ton displacement or whatever that's out there in the ocean. So it's kind of a big problem. Right, with these big old aircraft carriers. That's what you're dealing with over there. Now, the important thing about this is if we zoom all the way in at the top of the graphic, and we go and look, you guys might be able to see it on the top of your screen. Sentinel ends up sharing this from April 25th. Now, the Navy said that it happened on the 28th. So that tells me that these ships are over there turning around back and forth quite a bit. Why? Because they're patrolling up and down the coast. They're launching different aircraft. They're doing different things. Ships are going to turn around. They're going to make U-turns. They're over there patrolling. These things go about 30 knots or so. 30 knots. That's about it. 30, 35 knots. It's 10 to where they end up maxing out. And for those that don't know, that ends up being about like 30 miles an hour. Now, for people to come out and claim that the Harry S. Truman had to make evasive maneuvers because of an anti-ship ballistic missile that ended up getting shot at it is, in my opinion, a little bit crazy. And here's why I say that. These are all the capabilities, and not even all. This is just some. This doesn't include like aircraft. Like, it doesn't include a lot. But these are all the capabilities that come along with a strike carrier group and what keeps that sucker afloat. And I mean, it is quite a bit of stuff. Pants check, I'm wearing pants. Yeah, Scotty, I'm glad everybody's happy, man. And hopefully YouTube ends up pushing out notifications again. I'm great. Hey, look, I just got a notification. Finally, thank you, YouTube, for giving a notification out. But it's not for my channel. All right, so here we've got the Hawkeye, all right? Then we have the Aegis, Destroyer SM2 and 6. So the destroyers that are out there go along with this integrated system that works in conjunction with the Hawkeye. The Hawkeye is this plane that's up there scanning about 550 kilometers out for all sorts of freaking crap, looking for this stuff. On top of that, then they've got closer in missiles. And if you guys look at this chart that I ended up putting together, you have this one that shoots, this SM6 ends up shooting 150 to 200 kilometers away. Kind of important to understand. The BLK-2, all right, ends up shooting about 50 kilometers. And the CRAM ends up giving you about, I wouldn't call it 8, but I would call it like, a couple kilometers out. And then we have this thing, the Nulka active decoy, all right? It basically launches off the ship and basically hides the ship and convinces the ballistic missiles that are coming after it something else is shooting. So we're going to go over all those different capabilities, all right, as we look at it. And it's important to also understand what the Houthis' capabilities are when we go up over there. I ended up getting this information from the Defense Intelligence Agency. Imagine that. And they ended up putting out this report last year with some of the different ballistic missiles and stuff like that that the Houthis were shooting out there. And we're going to go over. Audio is the same it's been the last couple of days. John, I don't know about you, brother, but it's just not the case. And I'm going to double check it real quick because I know it sounds a heck of a lot better than it has the last couple of days. Yep. Nope. John, I'm sorry, brother. You're fool me once, sucker. Fool me once. All right. So yeah, nobody's getting the YouTube notification right now. That's okay. All right. So we go up over here and we start taking a look. All right. Here you have what the Houthis' ballistic missile capabilities are. All right. As they end up going out. Now they have anti-ship ballistic missiles as well, but obviously they've shot them all the way up over at Israel. And you guys can see that their freaking reach goes all the way out to the Red Sea from like the Houthi controlled territory, depending on where they launch these suckers at. Now, importantly, when we go and look at this, what I kind of like about it is when it goes over it, it sets this little ring on it. And it says, okay, so right here we have Yemen and we have where the Houthis are at. And then we have the different rings that go out. Okay. We come up over here, you have 100 to 150 kilometers. And I want you to look at that from Houthi controlled territory. They put the 150 kilometer mark here. Then they have the 300 kilometer mark that's coming out here and so on and so forth as it goes out. Now, obviously, it's going to depend on where those suckers are launched from. This is just a general graphic that they ended up putting together, that the DIA ended up putting together and releasing. Now, why is that important? Because there is a couple of these anti-ship ballistic missiles that have been fired over the year. Let me go ahead and pull those up for you because it's pretty freaking interesting. I ended up doing a lot of freaking background on all this stuff today, guys. And I mean, we're talking hours of this crap to put together all of the different crap that they end up having. There is one anti-ship ballistic missile, at least publicly, that they ended up putting out there. And that one anti-ship ballistic missile that they ended up firing was this one right here. And wouldn't you know it, the DIA actually happened to put out a graphic on it as well. I'm going to tell you about this sucker. All right. It pretty much mirrors the FA-110 that the Iranians end up shooting. It's got about a 300 to 400 kilometer range. So now we could take that and we could throw it back on the map and you guys can understand kind of where this is going. Happy birthday, everybody. Happy birthday. So you can kind of understand the different range that this sucker is going to be shooting at, right? It is not going to be going exceptionally far, but they don't need to. All right? It's going to cover the entire freaking Red Sea region that they need. If we go back and reference that one map that we ended up having up earlier. You can also take it just a little bit further and we can say it has basically it kind of like goes up and as it's coming down, all right, as it goes on, within about the last 10 seconds of flight or so, it ends up locking on the ship and then kind of zeroing in on it and sending it out. And that is the important part for that very last little piece of information, right? Like as it's coming down, in the last 10 seconds, it ends up locking on the ship. And at that point in time, okay, and you're talking that sucker's about 10 kilometers away because of how fast this thing goes. Now, in that last 10 seconds in time, we have several different lines because it's still, pretty freaking close, but also pretty far out there. And we're going to go over some of those different capabilities that would allow it to get away. All right. So now let's talk about, in particular, when we go back over and we look, there's another one that they're rumored to have, by the way. So this is just a possibility, not a probability, but this sucker ends up coming in as well. It's got a 500 kilometer range. It goes about Mach 8. The other one I just had up on the screen goes Mach 4. They ended up displaying it at a parade, but they've never came out and confirmed that that sucker actually got used. So that's kind of like a little important part, I guess, that ends up going in this as well. So never been confirmed to get used. Now, this other ballistic missile, okay, when it is time of flight, so from the moment of launch, if it goes all the way out 300 to 400 kilometers, you're looking at like 5 to, I don't know, 5.5 minutes worth of flight time. All right, like maximum flight for the FA-110 that I ended up just having up on the screen. So let me get that sucker back up on here, because this is the other important part that people need to understand. It's not a FA-110. It's like a freaking, it's like a Timu version, right? It's a Houthis Timu version. So this thing has got about a freaking 5-minute flight time. All right, for max distance, max range it's going to shoot, about a 10-minute flight time. But as it's about 20 kilometers out, hear me out here. When it's about 20 kilometers out, all right, it's got about 20 seconds of flight time. Why do I say that? Because it's very important. Okay, it's very, very important. And you can basically multiply that as it goes out. Does that make sense? So 100 kilometers out, you're looking about it like a second and a half, maybe a second 20, or I'm sorry, a minute and a half to a minute and 20 seconds. Okay, because this Striker, or excuse me, this aircraft carrier, as it's out there, it's only floating around at about 30 knots. All right, so about roughly 30 miles an hour if we're going to translate that in any sort of freaking plane talk. All right, so that freaking aircraft carrier is only out there traveling around freaking 30 knots. And if you really think about it, like I said, that sucker's got what, a 300 to 400 freaking range. So if you look at the map that the DIA ended up providing, what it'll tell you is that that first ballistic missile that we talked about, there's a reason they don't have to shoot that other one. That other one's got a much further range on it. That other one goes out to 500 kilometers. This one only goes out to like 3 or 4. And I'm assuming they've got like more of them. So this one that mimics the FA-110, all right, clearly is able to take care of everything that's in the Red Sea. Now, with that being said, as it goes out, you're not talking about a lot of flight time. So then we got to look and we got to say, okay, well, what has the United States government actually employed out there to take care of all of this crap? And that is where we enter in with the Hawkeye. And this is kind of the cool part about the Hawkeye. This is what I ended up putting in the video. It basically integrates with all of these different systems that are on the ships. And so there's a Hawkeye's up and it's freaking out there and it's doing its thing. It's able to tell everything else that's on the ground. Does that make sense to you guys? So the Hawkeye is looking out well over 500 kilometers. So again, going back to that same map and we look at it, the Hawkeye easily is being to be able to cover all of that crap that's out there. And it's an integrated system, so it can take care of everything that the Houthis end up shooting. So they're going to know it the moment it's detected. And just to give you an idea for how ridiculous these people sound when they say that this Truman didn't see the sucker coming.
The advanced Hawkeye provides revolutionary battle management command and control capabilities for theater air missile defense. More than 80 nations currently have cruise missile capabilities. The E-2D was designed with purpose and intent.
You guys get the idea, right? You've got the freaking destroyers that are on the ground. They got all these different weapon systems. This sucker's flying up overhead. The destroyers themselves have their own ability in order to find some stuff. Okay, now let's talk about this little bad boy for a hot minute. This is going to be the SM-6. This is what those destroyers carry. Okay, and this is what they're trying to tell you, that for some reason, how do I want to say this? That we are not capable of stopping this Houthi ballistic missile. So that'd be number one. But the other big claim is that it somehow was able to like get in between there. So this particular this particular interceptor, all right, ends up having a range of 150 to 200 kilometers. D-Rock, you are welcome, sir. I love you guys, and I just get frustrated when I couldn't figure this crap out, but I ended up getting her done. So now we're up and we're running it. So this is, like I said, the SM-6. This is the newer one, and this is getting launched off. So if you picture that plane that's up there flying around in the sky, covering these freaking aircraft carriers, those little things integrate down into this system. And when it ends up picking up on this ballistic missile that gets fired, that's well within the range, it ends up transferring it all the way back down. And this is a sucker getting shot off. So now we can look at it and we can be like, okay, well, that's a lot of crap that actually like the US government has, but it's not just that either. That actually goes down to like a completely different set of stuff as well. That is just, again, one particular freaking one that we have that launches. We also have this thing called the BLK-2, all right, or the RM-162 BLK-2. It goes out to 50. Okay, so this sucker ends up going all the way out to 50 kilometers. So this is another line of defense. So even if they're firing a wave, we've got the ability to fire multiple of these things off. There's multiple destroyers that are out there floating around. But again, your Aegis is going to go in there, and they all have like their own little freaking, like little independent radar systems and all other shit to pick up on these things. And so here's one of these things getting loaded up and going out the freaking hatch as well. You can kind of date it by the people wearing their masks. All right, let's get to the good part. All right, they finally get it in there. Good job, Navy. Proud of you. Yeah. Now, these little things are like no joke either. They actually get all the way up to like Mach 4 when they launch and like when they end up taking off. And what this whole integrated system does is it allows them to figure out the precise moment in time in which they all need to fire off in order to intercept whatever ballistic missile is going to come out there. To my knowledge, the US Navy did come out one time and admit just once that something got rather close to the ship, and it got all the way down to like the last line of defense. And I think it was a drone, because the radar cross section on drones are just a little bit too small sometimes for them to be able to pick up on. It's just kind of how it goes. It's been a huge problem for Israel. It's been a huge problem over inside of Ukraine as well. It's not like the Houthis have some like special freaking drone capability and all that other crap. It just happens to be a big pain in the butt. However, we are not defenseless when they get that dang close either. We also have these badass freaking weapon systems that some of you from the Global War on Terror know as the C-RAM, but it's something called a little bit different when it's attached to a ship. When it's attached to a ship, we ended up calling it the Phalanx Close-In Weapon System. Here it goes. Yeah, America. Now, I want to also let you guys know, it's not like they just end up having like one of these things out there. Like there's multiple of them like scattered all over these dang ships from like what I've been able to see, right? So let's talk about the seriousness of this. Now, if you have a freaking ballistic missile flying at you that's falling down at a rate of about 1 kilometer a second, okay, that's about to come over you, and according to the reports of everybody saying this crap online, was it made it past all the other lines of defense, and this ship had to go into like emergency maneuvers, and it just started throwing itself around at a whopping 30 knots, which again, that's a lot for a ship. ended up running through and checking and talking to a lot of people, ended up finding out that these ships do go like full freaking like flanking, like full rudder or whatever over in the back and like kind of turn themselves around. And it can. Now, CNN said that it gets up to like about 10 degrees of tilt or something like that. That's actually a pretty decent angle that ends up going over and tilting. When I end up asking a bunch of other like open source information and looking into it, ends up telling me that about 3 to 5 degrees max is what you're going to get out. The Navy does do like test runs like that out in the ocean and go over there and doing it. But they also turn quite rapidly as well over in a combat zone. And so while the Houthis claim that they ended up firing ballistic missiles, that ended up, I don't know if you guys remember this last week, they ended up claiming that they actually hit one of the freaking aircraft carriers. So it just kind of gets annoying at this point that we now have people that are over there trying to say that this is what ended up happening. Jason says, I just tuned in, so maybe you have gone over it already, but didn't the U.S. just release some new battleship that's a game changer? That's a very good question. I'm not spun up on the new U.S. Navy battleships, but if you'd like me to, I can do that. These things are just rad. Do it. So yeah, it's like tracking aerial systems and things like that all the way up in the sky. Like that's what's over there doing, which is pretty freaking cool. Yeah, they do all of that stuff. Okay, but that's not like it's the only like last line of defense that ends up going out there. This one I ended up finding not that long ago, and doesn't have a lot. Stealing it from a YouTube channel with 175 subs. It does a really good job of describing this. It's called the High Explosive YouTube channel. High Explosive YouTube channel. But they ended up putting this video together and explains it quite well. I think a little bit better than the one that I ended up having up before. Check this out. These destroyers also carry this crap. They all have them. This is another last line of defense.
Air threat warning red, air threat warning red. Bogies inbound, 030, 100 miles. Weapons tight, zippos loose. Zippo Foxtrot, bruises inbound, 230, 80, size 4, weapons free.
PDMS to auto, Nulka to auto.
Birds of birds away, tracks 23242526.
I know why you're asking why they sound Australian, because they helped develop this sucker. And the US tech went into them as well.
Splash tracks 2325, heads up 2426.
AS-17 Seeker, 230, multiple detections.
Nulka away. Cruisers 2426 seduced, Grand Slam.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw that, but this sucker literally like kind of pops up and it pretends like it's a freaking ship and it puts off that type of radar signature. Now, I know some of you guys are like, whoa, what about ballistic missiles? Don't worry. They have it prepared for that sucker too.
Zippo India, Bulldogs inbound, 12515, side 3, Ray Delta.
Nulka bearing 125, engage.
Nulka away. Bulldogs seduced, Grand Slam, Ray Delta.
So just to be clear, Not only do we have an airplane overhead that's watching over the freaking strike carrier group, all right, but that airplane then like out to 550 kilometers, then that airplane ends up commuting back down to multiple layers of intercepting freaking missiles that will go out and shoot them down. If they get through all of that crap, you still have the freaking phalanx that's on there that's able to go out and freaking blast at them. All right. And you got that sucker that we just had on the screen that goes as a decoy. Now, assuming that you know, what do we want to call it for Iran? So for those of you that are just joining in and coming up in here a little bit late, we're assessing the probability, okay, that the Houthis ended up shooting a freaking anti-ship ballistic missile, causing the USS Truman to go into emergency freaking maneuvers, and how ridiculous that really kind of sounds, honestly. Let me open up this file right here, and I'll show you exactly why. All right, so this guy, put it up on the screen right over here. This is the one that we have confirmed that they have actually shot at freaking U.S. warships over inside the Red Sea. It's got a range of 300 to 400 kilometers. Well, that airplane flying overhead with all those cool little radar capabilities that integrate back down in has a range of 550. It is easily covering the entire Red Sea and all of the Houthi-controlled territory to make sure that all of that crap stays covered. So the moment it ends up launching, they're aware. And that then gets transmitted down to the ships, and those ships end up launching freaking interceptors. And they have interceptors that range for hundreds of kilometers down to like freaking 50, down to close-in weapon systems. And on top of that, they also have decoys that they end up deploying off as well. So all of that crap is what's going off over inside of the Red Sea. Now, this thing comes in because the reports online are saying that it made it through all the last layers of defense and that ship had to make an immediate last-second emergency maneuver in order to avoid it. Just so you know, this sucker's only going. Its time of flight for its max range is only 5 minutes. Once it gets in within freaking, 20 kilometers, it's got about 20 seconds to impact. It locks in on the ship within the last 10 seconds. That's why that stupid little thing freaking popping out at the end there is kind of cool. Because it ends up popping out and deploying, and it makes it lock onto that before it even gets there. So you have all of these different layers of defense, not to mention you have that massive freaking gun that ends up blasting the freaking sky, trying to shoot the dang things down. So it's got to make it through all of those different layers of defense before it can actually get there. With that being said, 20 seconds, while it's 20 kilometers out, you're expecting this ship that's going freaking, 30 knots, 35 knots max, to somehow make an evasive maneuver and avoid a freaking weapon system that is locking onto it. It literally makes no sense. The most common sense answer to what actually happened was just put down in the live chat not that long ago. Because what I got told was that particular F-18 was on one of those little elevator platforms that's lifting it up to go up to the flight deck so it can take off and go freaking bomb Houthi targets. And all of a sudden, ship ends up jolting around a little bit, but I guess there was an issue with the equipment. The people jump off the equipment and it just rolls into the ocean. That's it. People are taking this sucker and they're dramatizing it like it's nobody's business. Benny says, thank you. Thank you, Benny. Greatly appreciate it. Dylan Dunker says, wouldn't the computer program that runs all of these systems also be able to predict where these missiles hit? Correct. They do. And they particularly fire the interceptors to go over there and take care of them. That's the craziest part about all of this crap. And it's all integrated. Everything's integrated. So they're all taking care in getting ready. So it's all, I would bet you, I don't have access to these systems, but I would bet you all of those end up getting everything lined up and stacked together. So the people that are out there trying to spew this crap, in my opinion, have lost their dang minds. There's just not a snowball's chance in hell it's happening. Sky God coming in, gifting out 20 Speak the Truth memberships. Greatly appreciate you, Sky God. And we had a new freaking true supporter that ended up joining not that long ago. I already missed him, man. I don't know where he went. I seen him, but he ended up falling off my screen. I wanted to give him a shout out before I ended up jumping out of here. I just wanted to make sure he got a shout out. So that's what they're expecting you to believe, is that the ship that's going 30 knots ends up deciding it's going to make an evasive maneuver. This freaking aircraft carrier is going to make an evasive maneuver within the last 20 to 30 seconds prior to impact, and somehow it's going to change the course, as opposed to just deploying all of these additional countermeasures that they have in order to make it happen. And there has only been one report of anything making it anywhere close to the dang ships, and it ended up getting eliminated by a C-ram, and it was a drone. And I've talked about it numerous times. But to say that the aircraft carrier is out there doing these maneuvers is absolutely ridiculous. As a matter of fact, CNN even breaks it down in their article. And this is the part that kind of ticks me off the most about all of this crap. They end up breaking it down in the article. Anastasio coming in, gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Greatly appreciate you, brother. So CNN actually ends up breaking this down in their article. Of course, they bury it like all the other freaking like crooked news freaking sources that are out there. All right, here you go. Carl Schusser, former U.S. Navy captain, told CNN that carriers try to avoid missile attack using a zigzag tactic. A zigzag tactic. You typically do a series of alternating 30 to 40 degree turns. Each takes about 30 seconds each way. Oh, wait a minute. How long did we say that that ballistic missile actually has before it ends up reaching that ship once it's in 20 to 30 kilometers? Oh, 20 to 30 seconds. Because that's how fast it's flying. And it doesn't log on until the last 10 seconds. And so when you really break down the capabilities of everything that this strike carrier group has, it kind of makes you wonder why anybody would want you to believe that. So a zigzag pattern, 20 to 30 seconds each way, cool. And again, this is the image that ended up getting floated around online, not naming any names. Image that ended up getting floated around online that got, picked up on the 25th, showing a complete and total U-turn. The ship literally did a 180. That is not a zigzag pattern. That is not them trying to avoid getting freaking hit by something. It is quite literally them doing a 180. And when you look all the way at the map on where they're at and you understand where Houthi-controlled territory is at, no kidding. They did a 180 way up there, you don't say. Imagine that. They turned around because they probably reached their limit of advance and wanted to go start patrolling in the other direction. And wouldn't you happen to know it, the destroyer started to turn around too. Why? Because the destroyers move along with the aircraft carriers and everything else, all to protect each other, and they make this shit happen. It is an entire system. And that is why it is so ridiculous for them to claim that a freaking Timu freaking Fatah 110 fired by the Houthis ended up making it through all of these different things in order to make it happen. Absolutely nuts. And again, we go back over and we start referencing the same CNN article that started this whole thing, and you ask them who their source is. A U.S. official said initial reports from the scene indicated that the Truman made a hard turn to avoid Houthi fire. A U.S. official. And how many times over the last week have we ended up seeing this crap come out? Oh, damn it, Nate. You don't got to do that, brother. An anonymous U.S. official. They didn't even bother saying familiar with the matter or anything like that. Just initial reports from the scene from an anonymous U.S. official. Why? I don't know. And I'm not saying that they're not being truthful. I'm not saying that they're not being honest, but maybe, just maybe, the freaking media has a reason to be putting things out like that. Get into it. Spell it out, Matt. Love it. Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm trying to do here for everybody else. Ladies and gentlemen, Nate Vance is in the house tonight. Holy cow, man. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm crazy in thinking that there's no possible way that ended up getting through. It's not outside of the realm of possibilities. But when you really start adding everything up and you really start putting everything together, it's absolutely asinine that anybody would think that any of that would actually make its way through. Again, I'm going to go up over here and I'm going to put up on the screen so that everybody can see it. Everybody can see this. All right. The layered security that these ships end up having. There's my graphics folder. There we go. Here is the layered security that these ships end up having. Brian Jansen's been a member of 18 months. Greatly appreciate you. Cody Gowring coming in for 14. Martin says, also, wouldn't that missile have to make it past the destroyer escorts? That's what we're saying. Now, all of those destroyer escorts, all of those other ships that are out there, that entire integrated system from the aircraft overhead that's scanning for these suckers out there to the destroyers, to the ship's internal defense system, to all of that other stuff, all of that matters when it goes down to it. And again, within 20 kilometers, it's got about 20 seconds to impact. And just one of those maneuvers, okay, to take it off freaking course, because it's only moving about 30 miles an hour, roughly, for us land freaking based human beings. It's not going to change it, because that freaking Timu 110 locks on 10 seconds prior to impact. So you have this entire array worth of stuff up there. It is much more plausible and probable that there was either an equipment issue, because it does happen, or that the ship did go into a turning maneuver that caused a slight frickin' sway in the boat, maybe a 2 to 3 degree frickin' cant, that ended up causing everything to go back. Brakes go out. I watched a freaking front end loader fly off a mountainside because the brakes went out on it. I remember somebody was driving it. Wasn't me. Maybe it was. Martin Sanda. Appreciate your donation, bud. Nate Vance, appreciate you coming to True Supporter. Everybody else. All right, so here's what we're going to do now. We're going to go over, if some of you guys think I'm wrong, it's more than okay. I'm actually curious because we do have a pretty frickin' huge truth supporter community. A lot of you guys have various backgrounds. And so what I would like is if any of you guys have freaking experience in the Navy, if any of you guys have experience in the Navy, if any of you guys know what the heck I'm talking about, I want you guys in here. I want to hear from you. I'm over in the freaking live session. I'm getting it up and running right now. I want to hear from you guys. I want to know whether or not, if everything that I just said, without talking to that many people in the Navy whatsoever, if everything I just said is actually accurate. If what I said is just accurate, or if what I said is not accurate, by all means, get your butts up in here. We already got a couple people that are requesting mics to come up in. Can't wait to have you guys up in here. All right, you guys, by all means. All right, Banshee, looks like your mic is prepped. Invite sent for Banshee to come in. Let's go, Banshee. What you got there, brother? Send it.
So it started with aircraft in World War II, but the Golden BB, no matter how much protection, how much armor, all it takes is this tiny piece getting through at this perfect spot to cause damage. So that's why they take evasive maneuvers, even though there are other factors happening. They'd still want to be in full, like, combat maneuvers while also defending, just in case. I mean, they've got remote control that those distraction drones won't really work if the guy actually piloted.
Right. And so if they're piloted, but that's the thing about the FA-110 Temu version, is it's supposed to lock on within the last 10 seconds. And so it's not being piloted flying straight into that ship. Not that they're going to know what it is, but they can judge it based on speed and all those other things. I almost guarantee it. But yeah, no, I can see that. But the other thing is that at 30 knots, how far is that ship really going to get away within about 20 seconds? How far is it drifting?
So 30 knots is also a very, that's the publicly accessible, more prevalently posted information.
Correct.
They can go faster.
They can.
And that's where when you're taking at full tilt, they're casting a lot farther. I think, like you said originally, maybe it was just not tied down right while they were taking maneuvers.
Well, it wasn't tied down. It was being transported up to the deck from what I've heard.
Okay. So yeah, well, taking maneuvers, and then when it comes up, if it's not tied down right, all it takes is switching from one side to the other, and that force is shift things, get it rolling. And once it's rolling, it doesn't take much energy to keep it rolling.
So when it's at its publicly disclosed top speed, you're able to get about within a 100 seconds, it can move about a click and a half.
So one of the guys posted in the live chat on YouTube saying
I'm right here.
Amazon could hit 55 miles an hour, 55 knots. And when it pulled a sharp bank, 15 would be a mild understatement.
Well, right.
But
yeah, if it's doing that fast.
But yeah, apparently he's in the chat, so I'll step down and let him talk about it since it's his comment.
Okay. All right, who's up? We got...
Before you talk too much, don't disclose anything that you should not disclose. I just want to preference that.
I don't think I have. Everything I disclosed is publicly available.
I'm not talking specifically to you, man.
Oh, the other guy with the speed of upwards. Yeah, no, I get you there. Yeah.
Let's, use generalized terms if you're going to talk about anything.
Yeah. Now,
specific, and stick to
Now, interesting enough,
whatever is public.
Right. So public information from what I got is between 35 to 40 max, and that they've ran, though they didn't disclose when they go into full tilt or frickin' whatever everybody's calling it, these flanking maneuvers when they go and they do these massive turns, that they have been able to do them at basically top speed. But that's also a really huge frickin' ship.
Yeah, hey Matt, you can look up U.S. Truman's sea trials, and you can see how fast they can talk. But when they do move aircraft onto, I was on a carrier,
Okay.
I was an airman, so we do chuck the planes when they're when they're hooked up to the tow vehicles. We do chuck the planes, but if they go into an evasive mover, they usually tie them down. So if they did not tie them down, they didn't just lose the aircraft; they also lost the tow vehicle.
Correct,
Because we
they
do
did.
simply just chuck them.
They did. They lost the tow vehicle along with it. You are correct, sir.
But if you want to show what the Truman can do, there's a sea trials. I can't remember the date on it, but there is a video out there that shows how fast it can turn.
Oh no, I believe it. I mean, it's not that it can't. It's the speed of the missile, and it's the speed of the anti-ship ballistic missile that's coming at it, plus the time of flight it has once it's gotten through all of those things before it goes into evasive maneuvers. Because it's only got about it's again at max range. It's 5 minutes time of flight for that particular ballistic missile, and it was reported to be after it got through all the other lines of defense that it decided to do an evasive maneuver, which it's not even locked on at that point. It doesn't get locked on until the end, when it's about 10 to 20 clicks out.
The maneuver itself is what caused the aircraft going over. It had nothing to do. I bet you it had really nothing to do with the missile.
Well, even on like those little simple turns, right? And like the aircraft carrier just doing a turn while it's out there, doesn't the ship also fluctuate just a couple degrees as well that would cause it? And that's a lot of weight for that fluctuation if the brakes or the hydraulics or something's wrong with it.
Exactly, because everything shifts. I mean, anything from a table that has any cup of coffee on it, as soon as they turn, everything slides with it. So all that momentum, and if something is wrong with the locking mechanism, it can slide. And so it was kind of, I mean, if they're doing evasive, we've done evasive before, but we tied down because it was a planned test. It wasn't just a random evasive maneuver. But to me, it sounds like faulty vehicle lock. The guy might have not even locked down the brakes on the I forgot what they're called. We call them huffers because they're tow vehicles, but they also, back when I was in the 1980, we used them as to turn the turbines and start the engines. But I think it's more of a vehicle maintenance issue, not a missile issue.
Well, I would slide with human error, like when it goes into it. Now, when they're turning, do they still run elevators and stuff like that, like while the ships are out turning?
Not usually, but we have slow turns. We have ran elevators to bring aircraft up and aircraft down, but not during an evasive turn. That's not normal to run an elevator.
Again, the Navy didn't say anything about an evasive turn. CNN did. Let's be clear.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I have never heard of anything like this. I didn't even read the CNN. I was watching your earlier, and I said that's BS because the way they're selling the story. But then again, it could be sold for a reason else. I don't know. It's unknown to me.
Yeah, yeah. And is this the first time that an aircraft has fallen off a ship like that?
We lost an F-8 off our aircraft, but it was rough seas, and that was the only reason why we lost it. I've never heard of an aircraft just randomly fall off a ship.
Right. Well, it's not so much that it like randomly fell off. I'm going to go with the same thing that causes lots of damage in the military, which is people doing stupid things or one little mistake. I mean, aircraft carriers are dangerous. They are freaking like an orchestra of freaking moving parts and pieces and everything else. And you screw up a little part of that, stuff like this can happen.
Exactly. Best job in the world you can get. I don't want to say nothing, but yeah, it is a good job. And you're right. It is a well orchestra. I mean, it's amazing everything that goes on that flight deck. So, and this is just kind of bewilders me how the aircraft fell off, but that's where I go back to maintenance of the vehicle that was towing it, locking it down, human error. Those are the main reasons that aircraft would fall off.
That sounds about right. I mean, seriously, it really does. If they're moving them in regular banking maneuvers and all that other crap, like as they're just turning, just a regular turn, it's going to shift. And like you said, momentum, weight, all that crap, coffee cups slide off the table, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, if it's not properly locked in as that's happening, Bob's your uncle.
Exactly. Very expensive check someone just wrote.
I feel like we don't even need insurance to cover it. It's not like they're going to dock their pay. Like there's a max that they can even dock your pay. I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, for crap like that. It's definitely not freaking 30 million or whatever the hell that aircraft's worth. 80. I don't know.
They're not going to. I do highly doubt that the guy will go to captain's mast, but he might lose a stripe if it comes down to they find out. I don't know. That's a big mistake, and they'll do an investigation on the ship, and he might lose a stripe. But I don't see him writing a check.
Yeah. Do you know how much it costs to keep that ship operational for one day, just out of sheer curiosity?
Not that one. I was on the USS Coral Sea, so we're talking many years ago. Is the last really diesel motor, and so I think it was like. No, I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. But it does.
Carrier. I just left the UN a carrier that was stationed at 5 years ago that deployed in South China Sea. So if you have any questions, Matt, I got you.
I appreciate you, Dave. I mean, does everything we're talking about sound like reasonable, or do you think it was doing some crazy maneuver?
You gotta understand, like, these guys are 18, 19 years old and fatigue. The longer the deployment is, a lot of variables happen. Motivation goes down, safety goes out the window sometimes. Typically, and they brief us this, and you probably have your experience, but the longer you go on deployment, the more.
Correct. Yep, that sounds reasonable. Mm-hmm.
Be liable. The admiral on the ship has to answer to Big Navy. Big Navy got to answer the president, and so on. So
You look at CAG is the one that's the top chain of the reliable before the admiral. So the CAG is probably the one that's going to be most trouble for causing a problem.
Okay, so real quick, because people on YouTube didn't hear you guys, it's when you're out on deployment for a really long period of time, that stuff people get laxed and more mistakes end up happening.
Yep.
Essentially,
the
crux of it.
In a war situation, you end up in general quarters for 20 hours a day. So those people are going to become fatigued because there's not a shift. You have two major shifts, 24 hours a day. But if you've got both shifts working in a full man ship, there is going to be fatigue.
Yep. All right. You ready for this? To operate a strike carrier group for one day, with all things considered, just a strike carrier group for one day, estimated $6.5 million.
I believe it. I handled the food aspect of it, and we always had about fully stocked, ready to go, about $5 million, up to $5 million of provisions on the ship.
Yeah, and when you really start thinking about it, we now have 2 strike carrier groups out there, so we're talking about, what, 13 mil a day, easy? Not to mention all of the freaking combat operations that are going on. Now you're pushing it up there. So this F-18, in all reality, maybe we killed about a day's worth of work, like not that big of a deal.
As long as they recover the aircraft.
No, it sank. She gone.
Oh, okay. Well, as long as Russia can't get it, it's fine.
I'm sure some squeal will go down there and put a charge on it. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
All right.
But I can only imagine because it's the aviation handlers' responsibilities, to yellow shirts as they call it, to be the ones kind of moving. Now, if it fell from the flight deck, that's a whole different story. But if it fell from the ACE elevator,
that's what I heard.
That's just it's just probably. And so the thing is that there's supposed to be a squadron, the representative of the fighter jet, which is a squadron personnel inside the plane maneuvering it. So my thing is probably wasn't tied down, or somebody didn't let go, or somewhere along the lines of somebody didn't let go of something, or somebody wasn't holding down the brake and it just went back.
Right.
Because the seas in Fifth Fleet are not rough. I was there for I was there during 2021, and there were the calmest the calmest seas I've sailed on before. I went so this probably had to do with somebody just saying fuck it or whatever, and
Making a mistake. Somebody did something stupid.
Yeah.
well,
Matt,
I'm glad nobody died out of it.
Like, what are the
Matt,
odds?
I sent you.
Go ahead, Nate. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, I sent you a. I looked up on Grok like how many times an airplane has just fallen off an aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
And it's been 10 times since like aircraft carrier usage has been like going on, and almost every one of them was human error. I mean, it's somebody did something wrong, right? So if you think about how many airplanes have been moved on aircraft carriers since they've been created, that's been decades.
What
how
was
many
the ship?
thousands of movements, and like all combat maneuvers, all that shit. They don't just fall off. Somebody screws up. I mean, that's what it boils down to.
Yeah. Right.
Was it the Truman?
Correct.
Okay, I'll see if I know somebody's on that boat right now because they have Wi-Fi. I mean, I'm sure it's locked down now because they're bad.
They're like they don't want anybody telling the goods.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, they secure all that.
Well, okay. So with that being said, what are the odds of it going to evasive maneuvers with a ballistic missile shot 5 minutes out, like max range? Like that's max range.
I can. It happens pretty quick, but it's not enough force for the plane to. Trust me, I've been on the boat where it moves and you move, right? But if the plane weighs a lot,
right,
it's not going to slide just like that. It's non-skid on the flight deck and in the hangar bay. So there's a reason why it's non-skid, so the wheels just don't go off the bay.
Right. And so it sounds like everything basically just got drug off. And I would assume that a lot of it was probably bad parking on the freaking elevator and freaking all that other crap, brakes, whatever the hell it is, weren't set correctly. Ship moves and the dang thing just goes. Or it went to go do a little bit of a turn and the dang thing just, the momentum took it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole thing, the whole principle that like this ballistic missile, because that is what was being said. And it was being said by some pretty reputable people that an anti-ship ballistic missile made it through all of the other lines of defense of the ship, and that it miraculously was able to avoid it with this wild defensive maneuver.
If that's the case, because the purpose of the small boys, the DDGs or the destroyer and the cruiser, is to take the hit for the carrier. So if a carrier gets hit by a missile, that's a bad day. That means the destroyer escort is destroyed, the cruiser escort is destroyed, because their sole purpose is to protect the carrier, even if it means that missile, the ship will light off for the missile to hit the smaller ship.
Right. And this
that's crazy.
Yeah, this is the part that blows my mind, that people are like, nope, it made it through all this shit, and miraculously this massive aircraft carrier within the last couple seconds went and just swerved right out of the way. I just don't see it.
Another thing about those air defense systems like the Aegis is that the only way you're going to even come close to getting to that carrier is, like you said, you've destroyed everything else, but not just destroyed it. That means they fired off all their SM6s, all their SM2s, all their SM3s, and you've completely gotten to a point of saturation where you've saturated the Aegis air defense system, which we have now at least 2 carrier groups over in that region, which means they're probably overlapping. So that's even more defense systems, right? So the concept of you firing one anti-ship ballistic missile and that aircraft carrier giving remotely a shit about that missile. Like, I mean, they're obviously got to deal with it, but like that's not going to freak them out at all, right? They're going to be like, oh, look, those idiots did another thing today.
It's like fly swatting.
If you fire 70 at once, that's going to get, some booty holes puckered up, right? But one is not going to like ruffle any feathers, really.
But they also don't have 70B shooting off all at once, nor do they have the capability of doing it with everything that's been diminished. And additionally, all they ended up claiming was a drone and a ballistic missile. So it doesn't pass muster.
What if they were doing standard maneuvers? Someone made a standard mistake. Something simple like it rolls off the flight.
Well,
It's just easier for the chain of command to blame it on. Oh, we were
a ballistic missile.
The chain of command didn't.
Yeah.
The chain of command didn't.
No,
The official
not gonna happen that way.
the official statement from the frickin' Navy. All right, they lost an F-18 Super Hornet assigned to Strike Fighter Squadron 136 and a tow tractor as the aircraft carrier operated in the Red Sea. All personnel are accounted for, with one sailor sustaining a minor injury. F-18 was actively under tow in the hangar bay when the move crew lost control of the aircraft. The aircraft and tow tractor were lost overboard. Sailors towing the aircraft took immediate action to move clear of the aircraft before it fell overboard. Investigations underway. Harry Truman Strike Group and embarked air wing remain fully mission capable. The strike group consists of flagship Harry Truman, the 9 squadrons of Carrier Air Wing 1, 3 guided missile destroyers, and the Ticonderoga class cruiser USS Gettysburg.
Oh yeah, the handlers, they fucked that one up then.
Okay.
It wasn't nothing to do with ship movement or anything. It was all training, handler, because you're supposed to have an E7 there kind of spotting you and so you have an E7, you have all the E5 and junior. And again, these are like 18, 19-year-old guys. The guy probably just got qualified. You got the squadron people probably 18, 19 years old, E3, E4, he's a framer, whatever, in the cockpit.
It just sounds ridiculous.
And he probably let go of the brake. Yeah, he probably let go of the brake. And when they were towing it back, it's probably what happened. He towed it back too far.
Right.
But he wasn't in it when it fell off, right?
Yeah.
But in that statement, it didn't say
No,
anything about evasive maneuver, right?
No, it does not say anything about evasive maneuvers.
Well, look, here's the other thing. Are we supposed to sit here and believe that a U.S. naval aircraft carrier can't conduct flight operations while they're also conducting evasive maneuvers? Like they're supposed, like
a little bit.
They can.
You know what I mean?
So, yeah,
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like they could do it in really rough seas. They could do it while they're turning. They could do it in bad weather. I've seen them do it, right? Like
you can still launch aircraft on one and stack the aircraft without even going to the hangar by tying all the aircraft down on one side. So you still have a launch point. So there's not like you need elevator during 24-hour operation.
Right.
Man,
yeah, that's what I mean. So blaming it on evasive maneuvers is like
it's a joke.
Stupid. Just
it's a joke.
With. Yeah,
it's silly. This is thank you.
Yeah, I don't think the evasive maneuver is the right part. I think it didn't get chalked down right. It was not parked right, kind of thing.
I don't know.
You know, when you do evasive maneuvers, I mean, you on a carrier, you don't feel it. You probably roll. Maybe you probably roll if you have like a rolling chair, but if you have anything bolted down, that's not moving. It's not moving at all.
I've
been. They didn't do it right. They either didn't chalk it down right, or they didn't.
No, you guys.
There's less.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say you guys are just clearly not giving enough credit to the Houthis. That's the problem here. Everything that we just laid out on the show.
And I don't even know enough about it like y'all do. I just know so much from my husband.
Yeah. I just can't wait to hear the propaganda that's going to come out of this.
That is the propaganda.
Oh, no, yeah.
That is quite literally the propaganda.
I've done evasive maneuvers on a ship, on a flat bottom, like LPD, a troop ship.
Okay.
And
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that will like move you around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll feel that.
The smaller ship you are moving.
Yeah, and we've done it like for workups in an aircraft carrier when we're doing flight ops off an aircraft carrier, and you couldn't. I mean, we're doing heli-borne flight ops off an aircraft carrier because our LHA was like in maintenance or some shit. And then we just used that deck, and they were yanking and banking, doing shit, training their crew. And like you said, I mean, you can sense if you're staring at the horizon, you're like, yeah, we're leading a little bit, but it doesn't even make you walk weird. It's not even something you really notice. If you're down in the hangar bay, you probably wouldn't even know if you can't see the horizon.
No.
So
The fact they
my
lost the
husband
protractor,
is
too,
an
kind of
AE.
a big red flag to it being a personnel error
So-
instead of a just moving it around or it not being locked in place error, because those things are only on a plane that's being moved by people.
So I'm glad. So to be clear, everybody unanimous decision. Everybody with experience. No, the ship was not under evasive maneuvers causing this to happen. Extremely unlikely.
Correct.
That's what took place.
Yep.
No, it's entirely gonna be
It's all done by operator error.
error.
Thank you.
Yeah, somebody getting fired. Somebody's getting fired.
Thank you.
They're probably
Somebody's eval is going to be terrible.
Yeah, somebody's
Oh
getting
my
fired.
goodness.
Somebody's going
No,
to mass.
like I said,
Oh,
they
yeah.
already jumped off.
No,
Probably.
it's just gonna be a couple stripes lost, pay docked.
Yeah, that chief that just got access to the chief's mess is going to be pissed when he has to go back and eat with the plebs again. You know.
Oh my God! Yes.
All right, thank you, Matt, for
Yeah.
doing all the work for us.
Yeah, of course, guys. I'm glad I was able to get most of the kinks lined out, and I'll continue to make my mic sound better. So I appreciate you guys.
Hey,
This sounds so much better. Thank you.
Hey, you're 5x5. It sounds awesome.
Appreciate you.
hey, off subject, but this is how does my mic sound? Because
Probably
I've been
better than
wanting
mine.
to strangle myself
Really
with.
good. Really good.
I've been wanting.
Really
Yeah,
good.
I've been wanting to strangle myself with a mic cord for the last 3 days, trying to get it figured out. So
Thank you.
I'm pretty excited.
Nate, you sound like a sexy beast.
Can't wait to get you on
you
camera.
Because I am.
Great.
I mean, I don't sound like one. I am one. So that's how that works.
Oh, hey, Matt.
Yep.
I don't want to go too much in details, but just pay attention to August 2025 to June 2026 in the Middle East.
Yeah.
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 All right.
At least in the Bahrain area.
All right.
Live mic.
I will do
Yeah.
that. August 25, June 26. Sounds doable.
Yep.
Can't wait.
For sure.
All right, man. I'm going to leave it at that before you get in trouble. All right, guys.
Yeah. Have a good night, guys.
Good night. Holy cow, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, so as it would seem, the Houthis likely didn't end up besting the U.S. Navy. I didn't run that poll. Sorry, I had a typo as I'm sitting here sideways typing over here and doing all that other crap. But ladies and gentlemen, it has been one hell of a night. I think we learned a lot. We learned that pretty much very little to snowball's chance in hell that the Houthis actually got a ballistic missile that close to the Truman, to the point that it felt it had to go into evasive maneuvers. I'm very glad we were able to put that BS to rest, and it just makes me feel a little bit better. Did the ship get hit? No. According to the Houthis, they've hit like 20 of them. Houthis have claimed they've hit so many freaking ships out there belonging to the U.S. Navy, it's out of control. It's just a joke. And then to see mainstream articles like CNN try to pick up on some of that BS and some other reputable sources try to get out there as well. Kind of shocking. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to see you guys tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. Have another video out with good, clean audio tomorrow. I hope you guys are ready for it because I'm going to go back in and I'm going to fine tune everything again.